the government doesn't actually exist. You know, what is the government? Is it a building? Is it a group of people? Is it a location? Is it an idea? What is the government? Ultimately, no one can say. It's kind of like Alan Watts said, you know, he said, what is reality? Ultimately, no one can say, because it isn't words, nor things.
All right, guys, third time on the show now, Joshua David Earp. He is an American actor, producer, entrepreneur, television and movie studio executive, financier, and marketing agency owner. Based in LA, he's an advisor to billionaires, celebrities, royal families, politicians, intellectual icons, titans of the industry, and Fortune 50 brands. He has appeared and been interviewed on major media platforms, ABC, Fox, CBS, NBC, Netflix, Hulu, FX, and Amazon Studios. He's also related to Wyatt Earp. He later moved into the music industry, working with the management teams and producers behind some of the world's most prominent artists, including Justin Timberlake, Drake, Bruno Mars, Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney, The Weeknd, French Montana, and Britney Spears. His entry into the motion picture industry began with his work on major television productions, including Shameless, Dave, Blackish, and he later went on to act, produce, market, and help finance the groundbreaking and critically acclaimed 23-time Emmy-winning TV series The Bay, airing on NBC's Peacock, which has received 64 nominations in daytime television. What a resume, man. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been busy, huh?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. One of my clients, his name's Steve Lindsay. He's, you know, sold 500 million records worldwide. He's, you know, taught Dr. Dre how to play piano, and he discovered Bruno Mars, things like that. In fact, Bruno Mars used to sleep on his couch. And he always told me one day, you know, like when it comes to achievement and the science and the mathematics of achievement, and he said, Josh, you know, he said the geniuses think they're imposters, and the imposters think they're geniuses. And so that's something that always stuck with me, because I feel like I haven't done anything, you know. So when you read all that stuff, I'm just like, you know, I'm just me. We're getting started, you know, and we're here to just make a positive change in the world.
That's interesting. Have you ever felt like you had imposter syndrome? Like you didn't belong?
Imposter syndrome. Not necessarily like as far as an imposter, but I always felt that, you know, it's so funny because going back to that quote, you know, Benjamin Franklin said that genius is simply a greater aptitude for patience. So if you're, you know, patient enough, you can actually become a genius in order to learn or do anything. And then Benjamin Franklin also, the reason why I'm wearing this security shirt is, and I've never worked a security job in my life, and I've never, I don't want to say never, but I did work a few jobs as a teenager. But, you know, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And the reason I'm wearing this shirt today on this wonderful podcast is because, as a reminder from Benjamin Franklin, actually, which is that if we trade our freedom for security, then we neither deserve nor freedom or security, you know?
Wow.
And so, in fact, that's why they call prison maximum security. So security is actually not what you want. You know, in fact, freedom is what you want. But, you know, they call it freedom for a reason, you know, because you have to be dumb to think you're getting something for free. So there is a price to pay. And there's a lot of people that have, you know, paid the price in the military, things like that. And, you know, respect and everything goes out to all those that, you know, are fighting for our freedom. But the thing is also is that there may be an alternative side to the story. And really what I encourage people on this podcast and also my previous podcast here is to, you know, ask questions. You know, nothing that I said in the past 2 podcasts or even in this one should be taken as gospel. I mean, even the gospel should not be taken as gospel. I mean, even if it was the word of God, right, which comes from Elohim, which means multiple gods, right? Which, you know, Hebrew actually predates Judaism quite extensively. In fact, it's mathematical in its degrees because of the fact that Hebrew is just very interesting because it is mathematics. In fact, it was, I believe, Galileo Galilei said that mathematics is the language in which God coded the universe. And you have early Freemasons like Pythagoras that said, you know, number rules the universe. And so, you know, going back to Benjamin Franklin, he was a Freemason, right, which comes from supposedly the ancient stonemasons guild. And what's interesting about that is Masonry is based off the Kabbalah. And the Kabbalah is actually based off the ancient Babylonian mystery traditions and mystery schools, such as the Talmud. And I know there's a lot of controversy in the world right now going on about, different topics, right? Whether it's races or ethnic, religious things, or whether it's war or politics or religion, or, there's all these things, right, going on. And I just tell people all the time, look, there's good and bad people in every organization, in every religion, in every region. Not just one group is good or bad. In fact, some would argue that there is no good and there's no bad. It's simply suggestive. But, the more I think about it, Sean, it's just a very interesting thing. So I feel like if I just keep rambling, we're going to, miss out on some of your questions. So I want you to get to some of your stuff.
I love how with the way you approach stuff, you go to the root cause. That's what I like about the way you think. You don't just scratch the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, I'm here to raise questions. I'm not here to provide answers. I've had people reach out to me from the past couple podcasts, and it's like, oh, you said this and you said that. Really what I'm encouraging people to do is just, presenting an alternative view. By the way, my lawyer and publicist make me say this, guys. I'm just kidding. They probably would like it if I did, though. But no, I'm just saying it to be real because, that's... what this world is missing right now is realness. You know?
I remember that Freemason clip we did got a lot of views.
Yeah, and there's good and bad people in every organization, and I encourage people to read Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike and Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert Mackey. And regarding the flat Earth stuff, it was actually a Freemason by Nikolai Copernicus that was the one that created that heliocentric global model, which is the Earth flat or is it hilly and bumpy? I mean, I kind of think it's a little more hilly and bumpy, especially where I live. So I'm not saying it's completely flat, but I am saying I'm raising questions. There's a lot of things that I said in that last episode. If you go back and do some of those things, take NASA.gov's own images, drop it into Adobe Photoshop, turn the saturation and levels down. You can see the clip art, you can see this stuff. It's not up for debate. Now, whether it's flat or round, I don't know. But I can tell you that what they're telling us is not true. I can promise you that.
What do you think of the discovery under the pyramids? Did you see that?
Well, it's funny because apparently there's more pyramids and there's more tombs and there's more mummies in America than there is actually in any other part of the world.
Wow.
And apparently according to the Native American beliefs and traditions, the New World is actually the Old World, and America is actually Old Egypt. And that's why there's places called Memphis, that Elon's building a super intelligent computer or whatnot. And, apparently, according once again to this tradition, right, there's no one that knows everything and blah, blah, blah. If you're that immature and don't even send me a message. But once again, going back to that Native American tradition, it's very interesting. They say the Mississippi is actually the Nile River.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is, on top of that is, they say that humanity started from Africa, 300,000 years ago. But if that were the case, then why doesn't everyone have African genes? But everybody has a Blackfoot princess grandma or an Iroquois grandma, et cetera. So, Cherokee grandma. And so once again, guys, questions are the answer. The quality of life we live is determined by the quality of questions that we ask.
Yeah, I remember history class growing up, and now looking back 10 years later of what I was taught, most of it was inaccurate.
Well, it's his story. That's history, right? Whoever wins the war writes the history books. But there's another book besides the history book, and that's called, which, by the way, if you look at the manufacturing company behind the history books, you'll see that they also created a lot of propaganda for World War II. And, when confronted with this, they said, oh, no, we changed. We're sorry. We don't do that anymore. I'll let you guys draw your own conclusions there. But ultimately, there's another book besides the history book that's very, very influential, which, by the way, my relative Wayne Dyer was written in every history book in the United States of America. And, regarding the, all the things he's done, we'll go over that another time if you want. He was actually John Wayne's acting coach. So I had this entertainment stuff in my blood before I ever even knew it. Yeah. And I didn't start out as an actor. I became an actor over time, and because no one would give me a shot. And nor was I really going out there to audition anyway, because I just didn't have time. I'm an entrepreneur and business guy, and I don't have time to be going to all these auditions. So I became a producer first, and then, put myself in the picture, With all that being said, though, there's another book, and it's called the Bible, and I mentioned it before. So they say parts of it are based off the Torah, and they say Judaism is the eldest of the monotheistic religions, which religion actually comes from the Latin root religare, which, stems from union. Same thing with yoga. That's Sanskrit for yug, which also means union. And so it's very interesting because, like I said, even if the Bible is the word of God, which, by the way, I was raised Christian, but I don't subscribe to any religion, and I dropped out of high school and didn't go to college, and I was asked to speak at Harvard.
Wow.
And the reason why is because I didn't let schooling interfere with my education. And I didn't let religion interfere with my spirituality. Now, there's a very important thing there. And by the way, is the book of Revelations really the way that it happened, or was a small group of people planning to take over the world, and they wrote out the book of Revelations, which was their plan to take over the world, and veiled an allegory and give it to the mass public so that perhaps, and once again, I don't know. I wasn't there during the writing of this book. I'm sorry. You guys are going to, if you don't like it, you're going to have to argue with someone other than me. I wasn't there. I'm sorry, guys. But what I'm saying is, if you can convince the mass public that this is the word of God, now it may be, I don't know. I'm not all knowing, all wise, and I question anyone who claims to know, But here's what I would say is that it would be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Advantageous, to take your plan and pass it off as the word of God, and make everyone believe it, so that way they feel hopeless. They feel there's nothing they can do. They feel like this is divine orchestration.
Yeah.
They better not go against this plan, because this plan is the word of God, and it's divinity. We can't go against divinity. Like, well, I'll tell you what, that would be the perfect way to take over the world if it were for me.
I mean,
and not only that, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm just saying that we need to be asking questions. It's called blind faith for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't like going into anything blind. I don't know about you.
No. There's definitely some churches that have been compromised, some modern day religious churches. There's a viral video right now of a pastor, I don't know if you've seen this, locking the doors. And he said, you guys can't leave until you donate this amount of money.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. That's crazy, right? That's evil.
Well, money, the church was created because of money. It's actually a tax shelter. And the thing is, I don't want to say it was created for money, but I'm just saying the modern organization of the exemption of the status was created for money. Obviously, it goes back to spirituality. But here's the thing. Let me tell you about the creation of money here in a second. Don't let me forget. But before that, we're going to go into spirituality, okay? So the thing is this. So the word inspiration comes from the word in spirit. The word spirit comes from the word spire, which means to breathe. So if you go inhale, exhalation, that's inspiration and expiration, right? We're here to inspire before we expire. But the word spirit comes from the word spire, which means to breathe. And the moment we stop breathing, what happens? Our spirit leaves the body, right? And so what's interesting is that's why they call it the respiratory system, because the word spire is in the word respiratory. And that's why they call DMT the spirit molecule, which is 2 trivial enzymatic steps from tryptophan. And it has a tryptamine nucleus, which is very, very interesting. And so it is the spirit molecule. It's not only produced in the pineal gland, which has a retina, cornea, and a lens, also like their third eye, essentially, but the most DMT is produced in the body and the lungs during conscious breathing. So it's the spirit molecule. I was just talking to Joe Rogan about this. I said, Joe, it was because of your videos on YouTube. I said, that's why I started making DMT.
Wow.
When I was like 18 in my parents' basement,
You can make it?
You can extract it. You can't make it. Yeah. So, and by the way, I don't recommend anyone do drugs. I don't, even though this exists in your own brain, just like, cannabis, is THC, 3,4-tetrahydrocannabinol, which we have endocannabinoid receptors in our brain. Don't ask me how I know all this stuff, guys. I lived a very lonely childhood. All the kids, I was just very different. All the kids thought I was different too. So anyway, here's the thing. I was very special, special ed, right? I rode that short bus to school on the days I wasn't skipping, which was very far and few between. I'm saying jokes right now, guys, but essentially, look, guys, So that's called the spirit, the spire, the conspiracy, you know. And this might sound like a conspiracy. There's that word again, okay? But literally the word conspire literally means to come together and to breathe. Aside from the fact that the CIA created the word conspiracy theorist, you know, back in the JFK assassination days, to label any critical thinker, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You know, it's funny because the average person doesn't know what that word actually means, you know.
And now the JFK files are released.
Well, they say they're released, you know. They say they're released, you know. There's so much going on behind the scenes. Politics, my friends, for those of you that are watching, is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex, okay? So if you don't understand that, and you really think that these actors on television are debating against each other, and you think this is real, I'm sorry to tell you, it's not. And I hate to tell you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but what you guys are watching is theater. And why do you think it's broadcasted on the same channels? Why do you think, you know, we're not going to go down this road, but people need to be aware. You know, I feel like awareness is key, and this is all public information. It's not like I'm the source of this information. But I do encourage people to ask questions, you know, and do more research, you know.
There's a bigger game being played, right?
There's a much bigger game being played. It's the oldest game in the entire world.
Yeah.
It's called Take Over the Entire World. That's what it's called.
The people that the general population believes are in power are not the ones actually in power. Not even close, right? I mean, you've studied these secret societies, and you kind of have an idea.
Well, the word secret comes from secretion. I mean, I was asked to join 2 levels higher than the Illuminated Seers of Bavaria, and I had to tell them no. You know, thankfully I was able to tell them no. You know, there's a lot of people I'm sure that weren't. But you know, the whole thing is, you know, they did give me a coin. Maybe what we'll do is maybe I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, we'll throw it
of the coin that they gave me, and they said, okay, well, if you don't want to come do the rituals, you know, we can at least give you this coin. But I actually gave the coin to my buddy Jerry, who's the executive producer of The Irishman on Netflix.
That was a good one.
So, which is the advisor to Chuck Lorre that created 2.5 Men, Big Bang Theory, all that. You know, I was just with Chuck. He's a nice guy. So, you know, it has some very interesting symbols because, you know, for those also watching or listening, this world is not governed by law nor words. It is governed by signs and symbols. And in these secret societies, they are intentionally misled, as mentioned in Morals and Dogma, which Albert Pike created the initiation rituals for Freemasonry, by the way, and the Scottish Rite, which is the more occultic rite, as opposed to the York Rite, which is more Christian. And yeah, I feel like we're going all over the place, so we'll go back to maybe some questions you have. But the word, it's funny you mentioned secret society because the word secret actually comes from the word secretion. And we'll get more into that because there's a secretion from our brain, actually, which we'll get into of how that plays in. The Greeks call it the Christos, which means Christ, you know, because there's an esoteric private knowledge of the Christ within. But let's go ahead and handle a few more of your questions.
I did want to ask you this because I know you as a mentalist also. Do you believe something like mind control is achievable?
Okay. So the word government, right, comprises of 2 words. Govern, which means control, and ment, which is Latin for the word mind, okay? Now, that's where you get the word governmental, meaning it was used in a sentence, it was a governmental organization. How many governmental organizations do we know? You know, so that's why it's so important to understand the fact of what's really going on and what these things really mean. Now, what's interesting is ment is Latin for mind, right? But what's interesting in Latin, you actually say it backwards. So it's not government. In Latin, it's actually translates literally. It's not control of the mind. In Latin, it literally translates to mind control. So you're asking me a very specific question. I feel like it's very important to be aware of the questions you're asking. So the question is, do I believe in mind control? That would be the same thing as asking, do I believe in government? Because the word government is literally translated to mind control. So let's rephrase the question to what the question actually is. Yeah. And let's forget that the government has been doing MK Ultra mind control experiments on unwitting civilians and just doesn't have their best interest at heart. I'm sorry, guys. Once again, sorry to burst your bubble. And this is all highly documented. But Do I believe in government? I actually don't. I don't believe in government, you know? I don't believe in mind control. Let me tell you why.
Shout out to today's sponsor, Quince. As the weather cools, I'm swapping in the pieces that actually gets the job done, that are warm, durable, and built to last. Quince delivers every time with wardrobe staples that'll carry you through the season. They have fall staples that you'll actually want to wear, like the 100% Mongolian cashmere for just $60. They also got classic fit denim and real leather and wool outerwear that looks sharp and holds up. By partnering directly with ethical factories and top artisans, Quince cuts out the middleman to deliver premium quality at half the cost of similar brands. They've really become a go-to across the board. You guys know how I love linen and how I've talked about it on previous episodes. I picked up some linen pants and they feel incredible. The quality is definitely noticeable compared to other brands. Layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/DSH for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. They're also available in Canada too.
Because the government doesn't actually exist. You know, what is the government? Is it a building? Is it a group of people? Is it a location? Is it an idea? What is the government? Ultimately, no one can say. It's kind of like Alan Watts said, you know, he said, what is reality? Ultimately, no one can say because it isn't words nor things, right? And so the government, the mind control, right? The government doesn't actually exist. The only reason that it somewhat, to a degree, does exist is because you believe it does, because you're manipulatable, because you are controlled by the media and the mind. In fact, the word media comes from the Greek goddess Medea, which is the Greek goddess of illusion. So we're buying into this illusion that there's a government that is going to take care of us. And I'll tell you what, historically proven, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, and this is for all my members of parliament, let me ask you guys a very serious question. If pro is the opposite of con, which it is, then what is the opposite of progress?
Congress.
Exactly. There you go.
That's a good
Ladies
one.
and gentlemen, there you go. Sean Kelly.
Case closed. You mentioned earlier, like, what is reality? Someone asked that. I do want to ask you about simulation theory.
Gotcha.
What are the odds we are living in a simulation in the Matrix?
So I'm going to provide some pictures. Maybe we can flash me.
We'll
with
throw it on the screen.
The
Yeah.
founder of the God particle, Dr. Katsushi Arasaka, which ties into the Mandela effect because he did create the Large Hadron Collider for CERN in Geneva, Switzerland. All 7 of them, to be exact. Even the small handheld ones. Yes, I've seen the models. All the way to the big ones all across the world for what's called particle acceleration physics. It's kind of funny. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, so through studying the microsaccadic eye movement and corollary discharge between central pattern generators, also known as CPGs for short, we were able to measure the activity between the processing of the information between the eyes and the brain. This is the Department of UCLA's Department of Physics and Astronomy, by the way, Dr. Katsushi Arasaka. So, and after spending millions and millions of dollars on all these high-tech equipment and all this stuff, it's so crazy. You should really come down and see all the lasers and stuff. Later on, I went to take Dr. Katsushi to Secret Knock, where we spoke together on stage and presented mostly his discoveries to the world. I was more so the advisor, manager, and then helped contribute to it, from the Eastern metaphysical standpoint, not so much the quantum mechanics standpoint. But what we found is that there's a couple millisecond, not second, but couple millisecond delay in the transferring and processing of information from the eyes to the brain. So and this is, by the way, one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs, which, by the way, science was founded by an angelic vision by a man by the name of Rene Descartes. So I love whenever people are like, oh, science, it's like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But anyway, so going back to what we're saying, so how can there be a couple millisecond delay of the transferring of processing of information from the eyes to the brain? How can that be? It's physically impossible. And what we found out is that it's not our eyes that see what's around us and broadcast the message to our brain. It's actually our brain that begins with the image first, believe it or not. And then our eyes, once again, broadcast outwards what's already inside of us.
Wow.
And that explains manifestation. You know, Dr. Wayne Dyer, there's a famous saying that says you have to see it in order to believe it. I like Dr. Wayne Dyer. He says you have to believe it in order to see it. And that's why it's so important. So once again, guys, not only do we want to break down the finer intricacies of religions and politics, and also the finer intricacies of spirituality and religion and manifestation and all this crazy stuff. I mean, can you believe what we've covered already in this podcast?
No, this is
We've
awesome.
literally shattered paradigm after paradigm. And I just can't wait for everyone in the comments. Oh, you're stupid. You're stupid. Oh, my God. You think the earth is flat. Oh, my God. You think this. You think that. Okay, first of all, who got asked to speak at Harvard? Was it me or these people dropping these comments, you know? Not only that, I declined the offer to speak at Harvard. Not only that, I declined the offer to join the most powerful organizations on this planet that have ever existed. You know, these are all things that, you know, I've had the opportunity to participate in, but I did not for my own various reasons, you know, which I think are pretty obvious, you know? Mostly being a positive, uplifting person, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't want to hurt anybody. But my whole thing, man, is, yeah, like it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because I'm just to the point where I just don't care, Sean, you know? You know, when I opened up for Edward Snowden at Secret Knock a previous year, I'll never forget it, because he said something that really changed my life. You know, he said that he basically said that most people don't speak out or they don't say anything because of a fear of criticism, you know? But I always reminded myself, you know, that the only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing.
Facts.
And the one thing, if anyone takes anything away from this interview at home, the one thing I want you to take away is that evil persists only when good men do nothing. So once again, evil persists only when good men do nothing. So let's not get too distracted by the celebrities, guys. Let's not get too distracted by the media. Let's not give so much of a fuck about this sporting event and who's going to win and this celebrity got. Like, none of that fucking matters, guys. Trust me, I'm with the biggest billionaires and celebrities and royal families and all that every single night. Like, it's crazy. And I'm not saying that for any other reason other than saying that it's not what you think it is. It's not what it's cracked up to be. There's a big show going on, guys, right now. And humanity is falling for it, you know. Yeah. Take it from me.
So as someone that's hanging out with these celebrities on almost a daily basis, what are the odds that some of these celebrities are actually cloned?
Well, it's funny you say that, because not just celebrities, okay? So you have to understand, right? Politics, right, is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. So David Geffen, the highest paid man in show business, right? If anyone's which was the advisor to Bill Clinton at the time, right? So if anybody, he created DreamWorks, he created all this stuff, right? Most successful man, arguably, in Hollywood. He gave an interview one time where he said that the only difference between politics and show business is that in show business, they pay you more because you're cuter or something like that.
Right.
So, let me take a drink here. But so what I was saying is, so are celebrities and are politicians cloned? Well, let's put it this way. A lot of them have just regular body doubles, right? Like Hitler had body doubles, Trump has body doubles, Hillary Clinton. I mean, you can look all this up, and it just makes sense from a security standpoint, right? And it's so funny because I just actually got invited to the White House and Mar-a-Lago recently, so it's kind of funny how all this is playing out. But it's more for business stuff. You know, I'm a business guy. But here's the thing. So a lot of them have body doubles, you know, and it just makes sense because of assassination attempts or whatever the hell, you know, and also so they can just do more at the same time. You know, you can send one guy here for a press release, you can send one guy here, and you can make more money that way.
I've seen Biden's body doubles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty ridiculous, you know. That's like straight up a mixture of wearing a mask and wearing like a body double, potentially a clone, who knows, combined with or perhaps CGI. I mean, it's just so crazy nowadays.
They were 4 inches taller or something.
Yeah, it's like his earlobes are detached in one photo and they're attached in the other. It's like, I don't care how much weight you lose, like that's not gonna, change. So obviously there's some shit going on, guys. But what I'm saying is, are they cloned? I believe that it's very possible. I mean, I would believe back in the 50s or even the 40s, we were able to clone sheep, and there's not much difference between cloning a sheep and a human. In fact, right now, there's a company in Austin, Texas. You can pay $50,000 to clone your pet.
Yeah, my friend did it. Yeah, he cloned his dog.
Yeah, so the technology is there. Consciousness transfer is another thing that the Nazis have been experimenting for a very long time with.
Is that possible yet?
In fact, what's interesting is speaking of DMT, look up something called mind uploading as well. That's something that the elite are also doing. They're able to, remember their past memories. Apparently, once again, guys, take it with a grain of salt. But especially anything mainstream, take that even more with a grain of salt. But what I was gonna say is, the cloning is pretty interesting. But who's to say for sure,
Yeah. Would you transfer your consciousness if you got offered that?
Well, it's funny that, I did a podcast with Mike Tyson and Graham Hancock, and he's a really big DMT researcher as well. And Graham was the one that told me that they've been explaining, the ancient Egyptians have been describing DMT, believe it or not, in a coded language for thousands of years.
Wow.
Regarding the removal of the spirit from the body. So do I believe you can remove the spirit from the body? Absolutely. I've done it. Do I believe hundreds of times, by the way, and I don't mean like sit down and with my mind and believe I'm astral projecting. Like even though I'm not talking shit on that, I mean, I believe that could work too. But because remember, the most DMT produced in the body is endogenously through respiration. So
you did it with breath work?
Absolutely. So anyway, it's a very interesting thing. So
some people do it with what's it called? Remote viewing. Have you seen that?
Yes. In fact, remote viewing and dowsing are two very important things to know about. Dowsing is also known as water witching. It's like that divining rod, where like it basically ties in with the ideomotive responses of your subconscious mind and shows you where the water is.
Yeah.
It can also help you find really anything. I mean, police use it for finding dead bodies, all this stuff.
So dowsing's legit?
So dowsing, is legit.
Because I have a guest.
They call it water witching.
Yeah, I have Dowsing Rod Girl coming on the show next month.
Yeah, she's super legit, man.
Yeah.
Like this ties into the like I said, the ideomotive responses of the subconscious mind, which is more powerful than anything else, man.
Wow.
But and it's been like done for so long. Like, how are you gonna this is what people used to find water for centuries. Like, how are you gonna say that doesn't work?
I didn't know that's why they were using it back in the day.
Yeah, but dowsing picks up where remote viewing picks up where dowsing leaves off. In fact, one of the heads of the American Navy was also the head of the American Dowsing Association, the ADA. So he was the head of the Navy, and he was the one that said, that remote viewing picks up where dowsing leaves off. In fact, Hitler, by the way, I'm not sure if it was him or his body double. My publicist makes me say that, by the way. But he would actually dowse. There's something called pendulum dowsing, right? He would dowse over a map in order to tell him where to send his troops and what to do.
That is interesting.
Which there's a whole alternative, not to blow this podcast up and go too crazy viral or too controversial, but there is a lot of skepticism and controversy over, World War II and how it happened. And
lately, yeah.
The lack of gas chambers and, different accounted stories. And, you'll have people saying, oh, well, my grandmother or whatever it was died in the Holocaust. And there was some friendly fire. And I believe, I'm not sure if it was 6 million or not. I really don't know. But I will tell you that when you look into the creation of Israel, right, and when you look into who created it and why, and the things and the subterfuges that had to do, and the friendly fire, and and how it kind of played out, there is a whole alternative view of all of that. And I was not there, so I don't know one way or the other what happened.
Yeah.
But based off the research that I've done, it's caused me to ask a lot of questions and question a lot of mainstream narratives. And so I don't know one way or the other. It really doesn't matter. Or I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but I really don't know. I'm being honest. But I think we should always ask questions. Especially regarding just historical events.
I will say Israel's being the most challenged it's ever been right now on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's it's a growing thing. And, a lot of my friends are Jewish. I love the Jewish people. a lot of my mentors are Jewish, business partners, friends, you know, like that's
especially
why
in your industry.
Yeah, that's why I said, you know, like there's good and bad people in every organization. Like you can't just put one label on everything. And so it really, you know, it's just, I feel like it's also another division tactic.
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Yeah, so it's like, it's another division tactic. Now, there are some really crazy things going on that I highly recommend people look into, you know, but other than that, you know, it's just hard to say.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion on Antarctica. I've had a few guests remote view there.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to see what they remote viewed. We actually wrote a screenplay about Operation High Jump, you know, and I'm also connected with one of Admiral Byrd's relatives that he led the Antarctica expedition. And, you know, in his journals and in his diaries, you know, he left some very interesting things behind, you know, that were only revealed after he died. And it was swept under the rug and nobody really talks about it. But when you go back and you actually read it, which most people don't, you'll find some very interesting things. Even if you just go on YouTube and just type in Admiral Byrd, B-Y-R-D, and read some of his old, watch some of his old videos, he very clearly says, you know, there are lands beyond the ice wall of Antarctica. He very clearly says that there are warm water lands and there is also inhabitants beyond the wall of Antarctica. Now, one of the questions I believe I briefly saw what you were going to ask, and by the way, sorry, we didn't really get to any of them, but one of them was, do I believe in aliens? And to be honest with you, I'm not so sure if I believe in aliens. You know why?
Why?
Because everyone else believes in it. You know, I used to believe in aliens until the government told me they were real. You know, the other thing is, you know, they're like, look at the His Story channel. They're just shoving fucking ancient aliens down your damn throat. Like, what's up with that, you know? On top of that, the word alien, right? Aside from the controversy of it being Neil A spelled backwards, you know, which is Neil Armstrong that, you know, got their Hollywood star on the building. And why has no astronaut ever turned the camera 360 degrees around? It's because they're on a movie set, guys. They're on a damn movie set, okay? Go listen to Kubrick's deathbed confessional video on BitChute, BITCHUTE. Go do your research. Like, don't just leave a comment, you're stupid. Like, that takes no effort. Like, like, go do a little bit of research, okay, guys? And then come back with something intelligent, and then maybe we'll have a conversation. I probably won't because I won't have time. But someone, I'm sure, in the comments will. So knock yourself out. But anyway, so back to what I was saying. So an alien's also known, by the way, the mom of E.T., I'm her producer, by the way, Dee Wallace, dear friend of mine. She's on our show, The Bay. So the mom for the movie E.T. is kind of like my mom, by the way. So it's kind of funny how all this comes into play. And I'm half German, and my family developed technology for NASA and things like that. So it's very interesting. But the word extraterrestrial does not mean from outer space. Which space, you know, it says in the Bible, God separated the waters from above and the waters from below, and made a firmament. You know, so they say a rainbow is actually a reflection of the top of the firmament, because what does light do? Rainbows are made of light. What are the characteristics of light? It simply reflects. Okay, so why do you think there's all these videos of Hillary Clinton and all these people, all these famous, you know, people referencing the firmament? Guys, come on, like, do a little bit of research here, guys. Don't believe NASA, okay? Don't believe them, or do. Like, have fun. Go ahead, knock yourself out. So anyway, the word extraterrestrial, what does the word terrestrial mean? Where does it come from? It comes from the word terrain. Okay? So what is terrain? That means land. So that extraterrestrial does not mean coming from far away from outer space to Earth. Okay? First of all, I'm not convinced 1,000% outer space exists. I mean, I'm sure there's something out there, but I'm just not buying the propaganda, guys. You want to buy the propaganda? Go ahead. Buy it. I'm not buying it. Now, on top of that, though, here's the other thing. Is so extraterrestrial comes from terrain. Well, guess what? What did Admiral Byrd say? He said that there were these inhabitants beyond the ice wall, which would be extra-terrain or extraterrestrial. Do you see? Are you making the connection now?
Yeah.
Right? So now the last thing I want to say about Antarctica is the fact that look up the Treaty of Antarctica. You know, after Admiral Byrd's discoveries, right, you know, you had something what was called the Treaty of Antarctica, which is where pretty much every single country in the world all agreed to not let anyone else that wasn't involved in military and government, super high level clearance, in Antarctica or beyond the ice wall, right? The military will actually escort you back if you try to go yourself. So it's a little bit sketchy, guys. It's a little bit sketchy because they could literally be doing anything out there. I mean, just like the deep underground military bases and all that, like what the hell are they doing? You know, in all these underground tunnels, what the hell are they using them all for? Why can't normal people, like it's so sketchy. Why are all these children going missing every year? Why is there human DNA being found in hot dogs? Why is there human DNA being found in McDonald's? Why are all these children going missing? You know, these are all questions we need to be asking as a people, and not only just asking, but we need to be demanding answers, you know, because the questions have been asked for a very long time, but the answers have not been demanded. And until they are demanded, you know, what we allow is what will continue. What we permit, we promote, you know. So, but going back to that, you know, the Treaty of Antarctica, it's like, you know, why... you know, when is the last time you ever remember every single country agreeing on one thing? Never. Besides the Treaty of Antarctica, for the most part, you know? So it's like there's something sketchy going on up there. I doubt all these billionaires and all these politicians and all these famous people are taking trips to Antarctica. I doubt they're going there to look at penguins. That's just my assumption. You know?
And then whenever you see a celebrity go there, it's like a part of Antarctica. They don't show the full thing, you know? When Mr. Beast went, it was just a little part of Antarctica.
Yeah, which Mr. Beast, you know, I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He's a nice guy. You know, his manager is a friend of mine, you know, and, you know, he, you know, I mean, there's controversy over him even, you know.
Lately,
it's all going to be exposed, guys, you know, like the people that you guys look up to, like, a lot of them are just implants, you know.
Yeah, they're just operations, right?
Absolutely.
They just put some money behind them, blow them up overnight. Come out of nowhere.
Now, one thing I want to say is that you, Sean Kelly, are an incredible individual, man, and you give me Larry King vibes. You know, I've had the pleasure of meeting Larry, and you know, his guys invest his money, like Stan and all those guys, and I just got to say, man, you're creating a legacy for yourself. You know, you're brave enough to ask these questions. You're you know, you're doing the right thing. You know, and obviously you're covering a lot of ground, and not every single guest and not every single idea is going to be, you know, the revelations, right? But essentially, though, is there's a lot of really great stuff in there, and you're presenting alternative views, and that's what it's all about, is asking questions.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from someone like you.
Well, thank you, man. And we need there's going to be a story to be told there, I believe, you know, and I believe your story is just unfolding in an incredible way. So congrats to you, man.
Thank you. I did want to ask about reptilians. You don't believe in aliens, but what about reptilians?
And it's not that I don't believe in aliens. It's just that I've never seen one. No one I've ever known has ever seen one. And, it's just one of those things. I'm not saying they don't exist. It's just, you know, and I do believe in a higher power, but maybe there isn't. Maybe we are the top of the food chain. There's all these things, you know, that we may have been lied to. So anyway, on top of that, so do I believe in reptilians? Absolutely. The amygdala. So I'm also a hypnotist, and the amygdala is the reptilian part of the brain. That's the fight or flight response. And so we all have some reptilian in us. I believe the question is, do I believe that there are more people that have more of that reptilian DNA than others? And absolutely, I believe that, you know. Now, whether they're a full-blown shapeshifter or whether they're like something out of a scary movie, who knows? Maybe it's more of an instinctual thing. Maybe it's more of an attitude thing, right? But when you go back to Quetzalcoatl, when you go back to all these ancient stories of all the reptilians, I mean, here's the other thing. We all know now, at least should, what the word pizza is in reference to, right?
Pizzagate.
Like pizza parties and all that, yeah, right? So let me ask you guys a question. Does it or does it not hit a little bit differently when you're older, when you go back and you watch the Ninja Turtles and you realize it's reptilians underground eating pizza?
Wow.
So does that hit for anybody else just a little bit differently?
A little bit, yeah.
So it's a thing. So
damn.
Yeah, because it's subconscious mind control, indoctrination, you know.
Yeah. Last topic for you, man.
All right, it better be good.
Yeah.
Better be the best you got.
We could go in a few ways here, but let's get controversial.
We got to break the internet, man. You know, it's already broken. Dead internet theory. Let's give it some more life.
Were we lied to about 9/11?
Were we lied to about 9/11? I believe so. Yes. You know, I believe. I've seen footage where the planes were CGI and put in there. I believe it was a false flag to invade Iraq, of course. Now, once again, this is what I believe. Everyone else has their own belief. It's so crazy. I'll tell you a very interesting story if we have time about that. But regardless, though, there are some like documentaries and stuff, right? Like Zeitgeist and Loose Change and all this stuff. But you kind of got to take some of that with a grain of salt, right? Because some of it's like controlled opposition.
Yeah.
But with 9/11, it's a very ritualistic number, I believe it was done as a sacrifice on the American people and in order to invade Iraq, but I don't think it was for weapons of mass destruction. I think it was because they had some type of ancient technology. I think they had information. I think they had resources. I think they had a lot of different things. And when you look back, it's so crazy you say that, because someone just came to me not the other day, but it was a while back, and they said, Josh, why do you think they invaded Iraq? Well, first of all, Iraq is modern day Babylon, So when you research everything, it goes all back, right? But somebody told me something about the tomb of Gilgamesh or something like that, the ancient Sumerian, legends, and that there was some type of technology in his tomb or something like that. And now this is all speculation, of course, right? But the interesting thing was whenever he actually started going over the military procedure that happened during that time, I thought it was really, really interesting. And I haven't been able to go and dissect every single thing to, verify every single thing. So maybe if someone watching this can provide some insight. But what was told to me by this individual was that if you look at the path where America sent its troops, right, into Iraq, it was mostly, and if you look at where Saddam Hussein apparently had most of his defense, it wasn't actually around like the big important buildings. It wasn't around like the people to protect the people, etc. Apparently, it was all around, or mostly around this specific museum.
Yeah.
This specific museum that had these like ancient artifacts, and that's in literally like instead of going alternative routes, America just went straight to that fucking
I've heard
museum,
this theory, yeah.
And or whatever it was, and
crazy, and
it's just a very unnatural route, but at the same time, like it makes you wonder, like what the hell was in there, what was in there, what are they holding on to, so I don't really know what was in there. Once again, this is all speculation. Did the government do 9/11? Did the mind control do 11? That's what you're asking me.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think so. And I think that's just what I think, man. I really do. I mean, if you look at the history, they don't have the best track record, right? Spraying civilians in St. Louis, like with harmful chemicals, testing things out on unwilling civilians. Like I don't trust them, man. I really don't trust them.
We'll see what the files release in a few months.
Yeah, the
here.
file. I mean, right before 9/11 happened, right? I mean, it was $1 trillion went missing from the Pentagon.
Yep.
But they want to audit anything over $600. They want to audit your Venmo.
I just had to pay a lot yesterday.
But taxes. They can't account for over $1 trillion. In fact, last thing I'll leave you guys on is money, right? So, and then we got to go. Sean's got some other great guests here, but it's all, a lot of people say it's for money, and that is true to a degree, but money comes from the word mono, which means one, and EY, which is Latin for eye. Okay, what's the symbol on the back of the $1 bill? It's one eye. Who's the guy on the front? They say it's George Washington. He was a 33-degree Freemason, right? But what's interesting is he also looks very similar to Adam Weishaupt, which is the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati. In fact, if you take the pictures next to each other, they look identical. So if they have the symbol on the back of the dollar bill, what makes you think they wouldn't have their man on the front? But there's a very interesting story. I mean, even behind that story, there's another story of a hijacked movement and things like that. But let me let you go, man. We probably went over already.
Oh, you're
I just
good,
want to
bro.
say thanks, and I just really appreciate the opportunity.
Dude, it was a blast. Thanks for coming back on. Check them out,
again.
guys. We'll link his stuff below. Peace.
Thanks.
I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the show a lot with the algorithm. Thank you.